I hope my screen is now visible. Is the screen visible to all of you? Okay, thanks. Uh, I would request everyone to please turn off their microphones. This is our second session of NPTEL PMRF live session. It's today we will broadly be discussing, as we have discussed, there are 7 layers in the OSI model, and in the TCP/IP model there are 4 broader layers which have been clubbed to. Some of the layers have been clubbed together from the OSI model to be as a TCP model. Okay, so for now we will first start with the application layer and its protocol. So there are multiple protocols which are running in the application layer, and it is helpful for the user end. So there are as the application layer is mainly uh, the interface, that is the layer which is the interface in front of people's face. For example, as I mentioned in the last session as well, for if I want to send an email from my desktop to another person, so at that time I would need an interface, that is the email interface, which will allow a certain protocol in its interface, which is able to transfer that particular message from my system to another system. And for that, it needs to identify what exactly is the address or the location of the system, as we say in the layman terms, that is the where the system is located. So in the computer science background, the location is broadly defined by the IP address of that particular uh, system. Okay. So today we'll be discussing different application layer protocols. There are multiple protocols, as we have seen, which are under the application layer. So firstly, there are some file transfer protocol which helps us to transfer file from one system to another. So that is TFTP, FTP, and NFS. So we'll broadly cover FTP and TFTP. Then there is an email transfer protocol, that is SMTP. Then that there is a remote login protocol. For example, you want to log into a server and access or fetch some data from that particular server. That is done through a telnet protocol. Then there is the network management protocol, which manages multiple servers on a particular network. So that is the SNMP protocol. And then there is the name management protocol, which is the DNS protocol. So uh, these are the names, like DNS is for domain name system, then FTP stands for file transfer protocol, HTTP stands for hypertext transfer protocol, SMTP stands for simple mail transport protocol, and SNMP stands for simple network management protocol. And finally, it is the telnet. So we'll first start with the DNS protocol, and what was its name was domain name system. Okay, so it is the protocol which is the global database system for internet addressing. As I mentioned, if I want to send a set of files from one system to another, so how will someone identify that what is exactly where the system exactly is located? So for that location, we need the internet addressing. So, domain name system incorporates in itself a global database system, and it is much easier to use and memorize. So, the concepts of domain and subdomains arises like this. For example, in as you know, in computer science, we have all the information stored in binary, that is zeros and ones. So all the informations are stored in a numeric values, but it is very difficult to remember those numeric values. For example, if I say that you have to send an address, you have to send a file to a particular address, which is 127.7.8.20. So how long you will be able to remember that particular address? However, if I tell you that you have to send a file to a Google server, so that will be an easy way for you to remember. Okay, so for that purpose, we have they have defined the domain name system. So domain management is very distributed, and DNS servers translate domain names to the IP addresses. So there are these are the top level domains, like we use .com for the commercial domains, .org for non-profit, .net for network service providers. So these are the broader domains. So under which there are multiple subcategories which help us to identify a particular address of the location. For example, in the commercial domain, under that we have a subcategory, say a set of institutes, and then we say under that institute what is the exactly the name of that institute. So in that manner, we'll be able to fetch that we want to send the what is the IP address to that particular domain name and its subdomains. So there are other levels of domain, which are the country levels, that is AU, AT, CA, DK, FR. So anyone with the questions? Other. Okay. So these are the domain names and its labels. As we know, for when we type on the internet, we say like www website name, say as mentioned here, challenger.atc.fhda.edu. So as I mentioned, edu was for the education domain. Okay, so we go from bottom to up approach, that is from left to right. So this challenger was the main subdomain, which is a part of atc.fhda.edu domain name. Then this is indirectly a part of fhda.edu domain. Then it is again a part of edu domain. Okay, so under edu, then it is fhda, then it is atc, and then it is challenger. So based on this, it finds out the IP address to that particular hierarchy. So normally we what we type in a layman language, as I am saying, that normally we type is www.google.com, but it is not a fully qualified domain names. Whenever we type www.google.com, so automatically that is automatically that end of that address is assigned a dot at the end of its name. So if a domain name ends in a dot, it is assumed to be complete. So this is known as fully qualified domain name, that is FQDN, or an absolute domain name. But if a domain name does not end in a dot, it is incomplete, and the DNS resolver may complete this by appending a suffix to the domain namespace. So it is directly or indirectly needs to be there. So the rules for doing this are implementation dependent and are locally configurable. So when you write an this URL www.google.com, then it goes to the DNS resolver, and then it puts a dot at the end of it, and then give it to the domain name database to identify what exactly is the domain of that particular address. So there are multiple level of top domains. One is the generic top level domains, which are the character where the characters are can be three or more than three in length. As you can see here, arrow for airport transport industry, then com for commercial organization, edu for educational organizations, gov for government agencies, etc. So if you have any top level domains with the characters three or more, then it is identified as a generic TLDs. However, when we talk about the country domains, these are the top level domains named for each of the ISO international two character country codes. So they are always two characters. You keep that thing in mind that the generic ones are three or more than three, and the country domains are only for two characters. So these are called the country domains or the geographical domains. And many countries have their own second level domains underneath which parallel generic top level domains are present. So this is the root directory under which there are the generic domains with three or more than three characters. Then there are the country domains with two characters. And then we have another one which is the inverse domain. So what exactly is the inverse domain? In the inverse domain, there is a root level, and as we keep on processing further, the this is the domain which maps the address to the IP address. That is the domain name to the IP address. So when we go down, that was .in.adder.arpa. So as it goes down, that goes for ARPA, that in adder, and then it sees 132, 134, 45, 121. So this is the hierarchy in which space this uh, internet address or the IP address is fetched. That is the inverse domain. So for the domain name access, we grow from bottom to up. But for the IP address fetching, there is an inverse domain where from the root level, then the domain name spaces are there, and then it is followed by the IP address. So till now, everyone is clear. I think I'm audible. Yes, okay. So there is a name resolution process, how that name is resolved. So the commonly used server for that is bind, which is Berkeley internal name domain, which has different multiple domain names corresponding to their particular IP address that runs under Unix as a process called named. So whenever you want to see that, then it is called the named version. You have to type named, and then you are able to see that the name resolution process. So when an application needs some information from the server, it invokes the DNS name resolver, and that resolver is invoked by using the command nslookup. So that DNS translates a fully qualified domain name into the corresponding IP address. So if you are using your machines and if you want to try it, you can try it using your command prompt as well. When you look into your command prompts and type the command nslookup, and then you type the particular domain name, for example, it will give the IP address. If I try to see here, I have nslookup. Okay, so the default server is unknown and its address is this. This is my own system's address. And then if I write www.google.com, it will give the address of that particular server and how to access it. Okay. So this is another one. If you want to check some other servers, you can provide the name. I can type it, and then you can see how it works. Anyone? Any server you want to check? Okay, I'll show the example. See, I typed microsoftteams.com, so it will provide me the address of Microsoft Teams. These are the addresses at which Microsoft Teams works. Okay. Oh, you want to see for Oracle? No. So again, you have to see NS lookup. You will type for oracle.com. So you will get multiple addresses for Oracle. And if you would like to see www.facebook.com, then again you will see the addresses at which Facebook works. Okay. So we see the examples here. So this is the command which is useful when we want to look up the IP address to a particular domain name server. Yeah, anyone having doubt till here? Okay. Now I will provide you a bit of idea about the client server model. I hope everybody also knows about this. What is the client server model? This is because the other protocols which we'll be seeing is mainly works on the client server architecture, that the client sends a request and the server responds to a particular request. So it is a standard model for developing network applications, and the notion of client server is as follows: that there is a server which is a process that is offering some service, and a client is a process that is requesting that services. For example, in a regular world, when we see that we are like, for example, we are using a phone. Okay, so we are the clients to that particular phone, and the service providers are the manufacturers of that phone. So the server or client may be running on different machines in the computer science background. So the client is also a machine and the server is also a machine. So it might be running on different sets of machines. So server always waits for the request from the clients. So until unless there is a need for something, the server will not automatically generate or does any process. So before a start of a communication, a connection has to be established between the two hosts. As we have discussed in the last session as well, about the circuit switching, in that also a connection establishment is required. So that is also kind of a client server, that one of the client wants to send a message to other clients and through a server. So how will they communicate between each other? For that they have to establish the connection. So there are broadly 5 components in a connection. One is the protocol which is used. So for example, we say whether it is a TCP protocol or the UDP protocol. Say if it is a TCP protocol, then it will be a reliable protocol. But if it is a UDP protocol, then it is a very non-reliable protocol. So the one thing that we need is the protocol used, at how that connection will be, after connection building, the communication will be happening with the help of which protocol. So that is a kind of set of rules. Then second thing is the source IP address, that is the kind of server's IP address. Then the server's port name. Then the destination IP address, that is the client IP address, and the destination port name, which is the client port name. then there is a socket, which is the method for achieving inter-process communication. So we will be having these addresses as well as the protocol that is needs to be used. But however, we also along with that need a socket, which is used to allow one process to speak to another on the same machine or in a different machine. Like the telephone is used to allow one person to speak to another. So if we dial on a telephone, it knows where the that dialing will lead to and connect to that particular person, and then allows them to talk. So the socket works in a similar manner. It helps to achieve inter-process communication. So based on this client server architecture, we will first discuss the protocol, that is FTP. So we have covered DNS, we have covered client server architecture. Now we will move to the FTP, that is file transfer protocol. Any doubts till now? Okay. Okay. FTP has to be on both server and client computers to work. So FTP facilitates transfer of files over the network from one uh, system to another, that is from the client to server or from server to client. So FTP often works with transmission control protocol, that is a TCP protocol, which offers a reliable connection between the two machines. So when there is a connection between the FTP, there are two types of connection. One is the controlled connection. In what manner the user used to send and received FTP command. So it automatically goes to port 21 for the control connection that controls how to send and receive FTP commands. Then the second one is the data connection, which is directly redirected to port 20, which is used to upload or download files. So these are the standard ports which have been assigned for the control connection and the data connection. However, if you want to specify a particular port on which the FTP commands are sent or the data connection is done, you can always specify in the FTP commands. So then the server side, that particular port will be responsible for the control connection and another particular port will be responsible to upload or download files. Then comes the processes, which are the data transfer broadly process. In that, it establishes the connection and manages the data channel. So there is a protocol interpreter which interprets the protocol and lets the data transfer process be controlled using commands received over the control channel. So for example, I want to say that the data should be transferred with the uh, conversion of text into ASCII characters. So that control and the process is controlled by the protocol interpreter and generated using the control connection commands. This is the basic working of the FTP. The client FTP application is built with the protocol interpreter, a data transfer process DTP, and a user interface. So this is the user interface. From here there is a FTP user interface and a file system. So this is the client system where we also have the protocol interpreter, that is which protocol is responsible, as we say, is the TCP protocol. Then there is a DTP user which is responsible for data transfer process. So then when we know about the protocol interpreter, then the user client side and the server side maintains a controlled connection between them, and that is through port number 21. Then the data connection is established using DTP and the data transfer process takes place. So for example, if I want to transfer a file from my client to a particular server, then During the DTP user process and the data connection process, the file system, that particular file is fetched and it is transferred to the server system. And there, the DTP helps to download those files as well. So for the user's perspective, when we use FTP, the user performs some or all of the functions or the operation. It is helping first to connect to a remote host, that is the server. Then it navigates and manipulates the directory structure. That is, for example, many of you have accessed the server, I guess, using the directory structure, right? So in that, what we do is on a Linux, I am able to show you much better that we do write a SSH command through which we are able to connect to a particular server, or a FTP command if you want to make a file transfer protocol, and then we are able to see the directory. For example, there are multiple directories. In even here also, we are able to see the directories. I can show you. Okay. This is the Windows, so it is not able to. Okay, I will be able to show you much better if I had a Linux background. So this is the command prompt is not allowing me to see the commands. But if from here I would be able to access through another server, then I'll be able to show you the command. Okay, I'll show you a basic interface that I have some servers. So this is my server address. I log in to that server, and then I hope it is able to. Okay, so if I am able to log into that server, this is my client side. That is, this is my client side, my personal laptop. Here is the directory structure which is available under downloads. If I see HP, okay, okay, if I see HP, so these are the directory structures. In a similar manner, this will be the server side, and it will get open. And from here, you can also see the directory structure of the server side. However, to access a particular server, you need to know the IP address to that particular server and need to give some credentials as well. So then you can do a file transfer from the client to the server accordingly. So this is the basic scenario. There's a workstation and FTP client. It is the data is stored in local folder or my data. This is data stored, and then it log into the FTP server. As I mentioned, first I need to log into that FTP server with my user ID and password. Then I need to navigate to the correct remote and local folders. That which folder I want to move to. Then I need to specify the file attributes, that what type of file, whether it should be in a read mode, write mode, or what in what way I need to send the file. And then I need to send the file using the put command from the client to the server. And now the file has been transferred from this client to this server, and it is stored in the temp directory. As here they have moved to the temp directory. So in this manner, finally the session is terminated. So I hope everyone is clear how the FTP scenario works, or the file transfer protocol works. So what is the query? You said many of you have said no, ma'am. Can anyone speak up? Amarnath or Tejaswini, anyone can you speak up? Raise hand. What exactly the point that is not clear to you?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, the last topic which you have said is FTP scenario. Once repeat it so that I can have clear understanding on that.
Okay, FTP scenario, as I've shown with the example as well. So this is the workstation that is, for example, say my system, or this is my system on which I'm working. So I have a directory structure, for example, a local folder or downloads or user, etc. So if I go to my disk local folder, it contains my data. That is some text file. So from here, I want to move my data to the server that is using the FTP command. So what are the steps that is being done are as follows. One is that it logs on to the FTP server, that to which server it wants to send, using the domain name of that particular server, that is remote.host.yourcompany.com. That can be any name. For example, I have shown here in my case, I had a server whose name was my name at the rate 10.5.20.84. Then it when I access to that when I put hit to that server, then they will ask for my user ID and my password because it is protected server. When I'll put the credentials, then it will be able it will let me to navigate to the directories and folders in the server side. So I'll be able to see what are the folders and directory structures in the server side as well. So now I'll specify the folder on which I want to send my file to. Then I will specify in the third step the file attributes. That is, what is the type of the file, what in what mode you want to send the file, whether only the read mode or the write mode or the append mode, etc. And then finally you send the file using the FTP command put. Then the file goes from your client, that is your system, to the server side, and then finally terminates the session using the quit command. So I hope now it's clear. You can get the PDFs after the session is over. So let us first continue with the session, and then you can get the PDF of this class. So next one is the TFTP, that is Trivial File Transfer Protocol. So that TFTP file transfer is a disk-to-disk data transfer and is a simple protocol used to transfer files. The simplicity of the architecture is deliberate in order to facilitate ease of implementation. The simplistic approach has many benefits over the basic FTP, which includes: first, used by the diskless devices to download firmware at boot time. It is used by the automated process for which the assignment of a user ID or password is not feasible. And it allows small sized application, allowing it to be implemented inexpensively and in environments where resources are constricted. So TFTP is implemented on the top of user datagram protocol. So here it is not implemented on TCP as in case of FTP. So this protocol is not reliable. It allows the small sized application to be implemented and transferred. So it is disk to disk transfer. So now FTP was from client to server, but it is disk to disk transfer. So TFTP requires no user authentication and it is a very insecure protocol. Next, we'll discuss about the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP, where HTTP is the protocol that supports communication between the web browsers and the web servers. So, for example, when we search on the web browser, that is Google Chrome, say, and it goes to the Google server, that is a kind of Apache or uh, applet. So, a web server is the HTTP server, and a web browser is the HTTP client. So the server side stores all the database, and the client side puts up a request to the server to access that database, as in a basic client server architecture. So most clients or servers run version 1.1, but 1.0 is also in use. So HTTP version 1.1 specifies a persistent connection by default. So HTTP is a basically hypertext transfer protocol and is usually for the web browsers and the web server. So the main difference between the previous protocols were that this is particularly used in case of the internet, that is the web browser and the server. In case of web, I'll see. HTTP is an application level protocol with the lightness and speed necessary for distributed hypermedia information systems. So the transport it offers transport independence. That is, HTTP protocol generally takes place over a TCP connection. So it is a reliable protocol. However, the protocol itself is not dependent on a specific transport layer. Then how the request and response session is created in HTTP, that is having a simple structure. One is the client sends a request and then the server returns a reply. So the HTTP can support multiple request reply exchanges over a single TCP connection. So for example, if once a connection is established, so the HTTP can support multiple requests and replies at the same time. So connection doesn't terminate at once the uh, one request reply is exchanged. So the well-known TCP port, which is used for HTTP servers, is the port 80. Other ports can also be used, but the default port is port 80. So guys, if you remember in the previous thing, in FTP, we have one connection port and one data transfer port. That the connection port was 21 and the data transfer was 20. So here in this case, in HTTP, the port is 80. So these are the default ports, but you can all the time put some other ports like 8800 or 8080 from where you want to access a particular server. So this is the basic architecture or the operation works. So the client side requests to site A, and then the site A, that is the server side, gives the web page of A to the client side. So we are able to see that web page at the client side. Next, again, the client requests to the site B, and it is able to see the web page of from site B. So web documents. Web documents can be grouped into three broader categories. There are different types of web documents which we request for during HTTP request. One is the static, another one is the dynamic, and third one is the active. So these are the static HTML documents that the client requests for a particular document or the web page, and it is directly retrieved from the server at the client side. No processing or functioning is done either at the client or the server side. Then is the dynamic document or the common gateway interface, in which the client sends a request to the server, and then the server does some programming at its end and give a dynamic HTML document to that particular client to be seen. So, for example, if I use a kind of calculator or some computation, I need some computation at that particular web page. So then I as a client will send a request that I want the server to give me the result on the web page of that particular request. So then server does the programming and computes that result, and then it shows as a dynamic HTML document at the web page. Then there are some active documents which are active in the user side as well. So this is a simple case of a kind of user authentication. So like when I kind of request at a server, or there are some sites when we go to that site, they needs our login. They are login or our authentication. So at that time, the client side also needs to give some feedback again to that particular server, so that it is able to retrieve that this is the client that is using the server. So for that purpose, this active document is used. Till now, anyone is having any queries? No. So HTTP request and status lines. So this is the how the request is done. Then we give the URL, and then there is the HTTP version, and another one is the status line. So we'll not go in depth into it, as you have, this is almost covered in the classes. So there are certain HTTP methods, as I'll discuss here. One is the GET, which requests a document from the server; head, which requests information about a document but not the document itself; then post, which sends some information from client to the server; and put, which sends a document from server to the client. So post sends information from client to the server, and then put sends document from server to the client. So these terminologies are the terminologies that you need to remember. Then there is a trace which echoes the incoming request. Then it's a connect, which is a reserved, which makes it reserved. And then there is a method option which inquires about other available options. So there are different status codes which are received as a feedback, because as it is a reliable connection, we need to know what is the status of the communication. So 100 is the continue, that the initial part of the request has received and the client may continue with this request. Then 101 is the switching, that the server is complying with the client request to switch protocols defined in an upgrade header. So it wants to switch to the protocol. For example, currently it is following a TCP protocol, but now it wants to move to a UDP protocol. Then 200, there are some success commands, which are 200, 201, 202, and
Hello.
204.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Who is speaking? Okay, so I'll mute everyone. Whenever you have queries, you just raise your hands and I'll answer it. Okay. So 200 reflects the request is successful. 201 shows a new URL is created. 202 that the request is accepted but not immediately acted upon, and 204 is that no content in the body. So there are these status codes for redirection of the URL or client error. If you receive there are multiple times when we try to open a web page and we are not able to see anything, but it shows error 404 or error 400. So these are the errors in which shows whether that there is a syntax error in which we have put the URL, or the document is not found at the server end, so etc. These are the status codes that will be good if you guys remember these or keep them in mind. So there are different HTTP headers, which are the cache control, which specify information about the caching. Then it is a connection, which shows whether the connection should be closed or not. Then the date, which shows the current date. Then the MIME version, which shows the MIME version used. We'll discuss about the MIME version correspondingly. And then the upgrade, which specify the preferred upgraded protocol. We also have the HTTP proxy server, which acts as a proxy server if the HTTP main server fails. So HTTP proxy acts as a proxy for the server if it is getting failed. So then the browser can be redirected to HTTP proxy and gets the information or the data from that particular HTTP proxy. So as we have seen the HTTP request, so we just type or make uh, everything in English. We see everything in English. But how these web pages are developed, the information from where the servers provide the information in the HTML language, that is hypertext markup language, and then that language is converted into a web page, that is reflected in a web page. So it is a computer language that used to create the web pages, as many of you have been familiar with the languages because it is already been taught uh, in the schools or colleges itself. So HTML file is a text file which contain markup tags such as this tag P. The tags tell web browsers how to display a page. So they can either have them in .html file as .html file or .html. So tags are the elements that create the components of a page. The tags are surrounded by the angle brackets, as you can see here. These are the angle brackets, and usually these tags come in pair. They start and then ends with a slash with that particular tag name. So the stuff between them is called the element content. Tags are not case sensitive. That is new standard is to use the lowercase. So if we give capital P or small p, then it will be the same. They are not case sensitive. So this is how the HTML document is created. We start with HTML and close HTML. Then we write the head and close the head. In between, we write the title and provide this as a document title, close the title. And then we put the body where you put the content of the page and close the body. So it's a similar way. When you write the C language, you start with the curly braces, then you have to end it with the curly braces. Then again, for example, in case of the start of the int main, you have to start with the curly braces, end with the curly braces. Then the start of for loop, again you have to start with the curly braces, end with the curly braces. So HTML also works in a similar manner. You start with the tag, you end up with the tag. So there are few other tags as well, in which the information is stored in the tag itself. So these are, first one is the link tag, and here the anchor tag is used, that is A and close A. So there are three kinds. That is a link to the page in the same folder, that links to the page in a different folder, and links to the outside web on the internet. So here, as you can see here, A, then we need to provide the address at which page you want to go. That is, what is the page. For example, when we see sometimes on the internet or on the web page, they mention the email address or the website of a particular person, then they have mentioned the URL. So how that page is displayed, how that thing is displayed on the page, that we are able to see using this anchor tag. So this is the uh, content that will be displayed on the page. That is, if I type here only as go to the home page, so we'll see the go to the home page, and if we click on go to the home page, then we'll be redirected to the link mentioned in href. The two components are, one is the address and then is the text or description, that is what you see on the page. So image source tag is a tag which has no closing tag. It is the only tag which has no closing tag, only the opening tag. So the components of the image tag are as follows. It is the source URL, that is the points to the location of the image file, then alt, which is describing the image for the screen readers. So then we'll discuss the telnet. Anyone having any query till now? So anyone asked the question, what exactly are ports? So basically, in a port number is a number assigned to a unique identity, uniquely to identify connection endpoint. So we have a server, but in that server we have multiple ports, and then we need to specify at what port that direct service or that specific service should be running. So it is not possible that under a service under a server all the things are done from a single point of contact. So there are different tasks assigned to different point of contacts, and that those different point of contacts are known as ports. So port is a logical construct that identifies a specific process or the type of network service it can provide. Okay. So now the telnet, which is a protocol that provides a general bidirectional 8-bit byte-oriented communication facility. And telnet is a program that supports the telnet protocol. It is basically, it is also running over TCP. So telnet is able to connect to the remote server. So this is the protocol that is able to connect to a remote server. So if the telnet puts up a request, then the input from the client to the keyboard, client keyboard to the server will be there, and that is uh, returned back as the output from the server to the client to display. So the TCP connection and the popular port which is used for telnet is port 23. So here data and control are over the same connection. The telnet protocol uses network virtual terminal, which is the intermediate representation of generic terminal. It provides a standard language for the communication of terminal control functions. So this is the telnet client, which asks the telnet server for different things, for access control, user application, server control, etc. So there are multiple control functions. One is the interrupt process, suspend or abort a process, then abort output to send no more output to the user terminal. Are you there to check to see if the system is still running? Erase character to delete the last character, and erase line to delete the input current line. Next protocol is simple mail transfer protocol, that is SMTP. The goal of this protocol protocol is to transfer mail reliably and efficiently. So whenever we have the reliable term, then it comes with the TCP connection. So the SMTP also uses the TCP protocol. So the well-known port for SMTP is port 25. So SMTP clients and server have two main components. One is the user agent, which prepares the message and closes it into the envelopes. Okay. Then there is a mail transfer agent that transfers the mail across the internet. Example, send mail. Example, we have the Gmail, etc. Then there is the analogous to the postal system in many ways, as there is the internet and this follows the SMTP protocol, which helps to transfer from the client side to the server side. So typical form of a mail, as you all are very well aware, is that mail is a text file which is having an envelope that is the sender's address, the receiver's address, and other information. That is the message, which are containing the mail headers, defines the sender's receiver, the subject of the message, and other information, and the mail body, which contains the actual information of the message. There are different keywords which serve different purpose in SMTP protocol. The hello is a keyword which is used to sender's host domain name, and mail from identifies the email address of the sender. Receipt to identifies the email of the intended recipient, and data is the body of the message, and quit is the ending of the connection. And there are few other keywords, as you can see here. There are certain status codes we receive when we send a mail. So the server responds with these three-digit codes that may be followed by the text information. The first code is 2 hash hash. That is, hash hash can be any number that starts with 2 but a 3-digit code. So that shows a success of the mail. Then there is other code which is 3 hash hash, with that is starts from 3 and the other two can be any number, which is a command. This means that the command can be accepted with more information. Then there is 4 with the hash hash, which is that the command was rejected but error condition is temporary. So it might be accepted in some later stages. Then it is a 5 hash hash, which shows that the command is rejected and it is a bad user. That means the server doesn't exist. So this is a basic example of a kind of client server communication in which the data or things are transferred. So first the mail from, it checks the mail is coming from what, then it gives OK status as a 250 that starts from 2 and hash hash is 50. Then it sends receipt to what address it wants to send. Then again it sends it's OK. Then again it sends the data and it starts with 354, which shows that as I mentioned that the command can be accepted but with more information, that it says that start mail input. Then it gives the subject and then all the data relevant to it, the body and everything, and then it is 250 OK that this is the content which is receipt. So everyone clear till here? So there are few extensions that you can keep in mind, that is for SMTP. One is the MIME extension, which is multipurpose internet mail extension, that helps to transform non-ASCII data to NVD, that is network virtual terminator, into ASCII data. That is, we have when we send a mail, we have too much of data in the form of text or an application or an image or a video or an audio file. So all those files are not interpreted by the server. So we need some extensions which are able to transfer that non-ASCII data into the ASCII data. That is the bit information that is done by the MIME extension. Is multipurpose internet mail extension. These MIME headers are located between the email header and body. The MIME version currently used is 1.1. The content type is type or subtype. Content transfer coding is encoding type, and content ID is message ID, and content description is textual explanation of non-textual content. So there are multiple ways in which we can give the content type. So for example, if there is a video, the this is the type that they show and then converts into the particular bits. This is the type of transfer encoding, that's 7-bit, then 8-bit, binary, base 64, and etc. There are other MTAs or the mail access protocols. The MTA delivers email to the user mailbox. They can be complex with numerous delivery methods, routers, and ACLs. So, for example, send mail, postfix, exim, etc. So, the mail access protocol are used by the user to retrieve the email from the mailbox, that is the POP3 and IMAP4. So we send it through SMTP. Then there is MIME, which helps to convert. Then there is MTA, which delivers email to the user's box. And then there are mail access protocols, which is able to retrieve that email from the mailbox at the user end. The last protocol which we'll be seeing today is the Simple Network Management Protocol. So the fundamental objective of Simple Network Management Protocol is to manage all aspects of the network as well as application related to that network. So it has two components. One is the monitor, another one is the manage. So the monitor, what it does is SNMP implementation allows network administrators to monitor their networks in order to, among other things, ensure the health of the network, forecast usage and capacity, and in problem determination. So what is the manage phase is SNMP provides the capability of network administrators to affect aspects within the network. So the values which regulate network operation can be altered, allowing administrators to quickly respond to the network problems, dynamic implement new network changes, and to perform real-time testing on how changes may affect their network. So SNMP manages all the fundamental parts of the network. SNMP implements a manager or agent or sub-agent model, which conforms very closely to the client-server model. So it defines the components and interactions involved in SNMP community, which includes a management information base, then an that is this information base, then an SNMP agent, an SNMP manager, and then SNMP sub-agent. So this is the management station and the management system. So the SNMP manager process sends or accepts a query and then provides a reply to the management system. Okay. So I think we can end this discussion here. It's almost more than an hour. So anyone is having a doubt till now? Yes. So Akshit, you can speak. I have allowed. So the ASCII data means in the kind of binary form, like whether you are in the binary form or not. Okay. So okay, let me clear you with the example. So there is ASCII encoding for each of the characters that we type in English. So for example, for A, the ASCII ASCII code is 65. Then for B, the ASCII code is 66, then 67, and so on. So for each of the character, we have an ASCII value. So that ASCII value can then be converted into the bit representation. So that is meant by the ASCII data. Is it clear? Okay, so somebody has asked me what is the real life example of SNMP. With it, basically, uh, what I would say is it helps to convert for example, there are conditions when the connection is not working properly. So there are multiple systems on the network. So at that time, the SNMP protocols comes into picture and is able to manage the network, that which system should be assigned with which kind of bandwidth, or it tracks what bytes or packets or is transmitted through the router to which kind of system, so that the connection speeds up between devices and the uh, responses are received maximum times at the client side. So there are cases when you see, when you all submit, you are given an exam, and at the same time you all submit over a server some code on the server, and it hangs. So you are not able to send at that time because multiple requests are there. So at that time, SNMP is able to manage that network, how the data should be managed, or how the data should be transferred, the request should be addressed, so that the network is able to manage those things. The services are provided at a speedy way. Okay, so you joined late. You'd want to tell me what is covered before FTP. So before FTP, we just covered about the DNS, that is the domain name server, which helps to convert the domain name to the IP address of that particular server. The details you can check in the PDFs that I will be sharing. I'll now start with a quick few assignments that have been provided to you. Firstly, I will discuss the last week assignment. So I think every one of you might have been done that assignment one. So I'll discuss the solutions to assignment one. I know the last date for that assignment is tomorrow. So, but I assume that everybody has been done that. So it will revise the, it will help you to revise the concepts as well. So I would like if everybody will answer me along with this. Okay. So question number one is that the router operates at transport layer of OSI model. Is that statement correct, true or false? Yes, the statement is false. As a router is a layer 3 device or deployed in network layer of the 7-layer model, that is the OSI model, and is responsible for forwarding data packets between the computer network. So it is not located at the transport layer, it is located at the network layer. So which of the following two statements are correct? Physical layer converts digital data to analog signal and vice versa. And data link layer handles bit stuffing and checksums for error handling. I will wait. Some of you should answer also. Other people also answer, please. Okay, great. Both the answers are correct. And in physical layer, digital data are converted to analog signal for transmission and converted back to the digital data. In data link layer, bit stuffing and checksums are introduced so that the error transmission during the transmission can be handled. So the next question is, which of the following technologies does a typical circuit switching protocol use? Great. So the correct answer is time division. In circuit switching, transistors acts as switches or cross points in the circuit between the sender and the receiver. And time division switching works by slicing digitized speech information into a sequence of time intervals or slots. As you also have seen, we need to establish a connection and then transfer the data and then end the connection. So the time division switching works with the circuit switching as well. So the next question is, which of the following are the example of application layer protocol of OSI model? We have currently studied about the application layer protocols only. So which of the following are the example of application layer protocols of OSI model? Yes, so the correct answer is A and D. Many of you, I don't know why, have said A and C, and some of you only have mentioned A. So the C is not for the application layer protocol. It is the Ethernet is the physical layer protocol. Is a kind of physical data link layer protocol. So the FTP and Telnet are the application layer protocol, and we have even seen it today as well. Whereas the UDP is the transport layer protocol and the Ethernet is the data link layer protocol. Anyone, any doubts in this question? Should I proceed further? Okay. Which of the following are true for packet switching? Packet switching is less reliable. It is a store and forward technique. Call setup is required in packet switching or none of the options. many of you have mentioned correctly, that is A and B. That packet switching uses store and forward technique. As we know that it stores and then it forwards. So packet switching is less reliable as it can result in packet loss due to congestion or the network errors, because all the there is no connection establishment. So the packets are transferred from a particular node to another node. So if there is an error in particular network, so the packets will get lost. The call setup is not required in packet switching. Call setup is only required in kind of circuit switching, in which there is a communication established. So a kind of similar question which we did last time also, switches break up collision domain. So is that statement true or false? I now require a correct answer from all of you. Who mentions false? So we studied in the last lecture also, Anurag, the collision domain allows a device to send packets on the network, on a network segment, forcing other devices on the same segment to pay attention to it. So if other devices try to transmit during that period, it will lead to collision, which is done by the hub. So in case of hub, the collision occurs and the switches allow them to deviate the route and follows only from one port to another. The switches breaks up the collision domain. Similar way, as well as for switches, we have it for bridges as well. So which of the following statement is not transparent in terms of data traversal? Context switching, packet switching, context and packet both, or none of them? So the answer is that packet switching is not transparent. A circuit switching is completely transparent as it follows a dedicated path. In contrast, the packet switching is not transparent, one where each packet can follow a different path altogether. What is the correct order of these three phases in circuit switching? Every one of you is correct. It's establish, transfer, and then disconnect. So what is the socket address? There are four possible answers. Think and then speak. I'm asking about the socket address. It's the port and the IP address. Which of the following protocol is responsible for translating, say, www.w3.org into corresponding IP address? Great. Okay, so that is the domain name system protocol, which is responsible for translating the domain name to its corresponding IP address. So anyone is having any queries till now in the current uh, assignment? I hope you're clear with the concepts till now. Then we'll discuss sample assignment based on what we studied in the today's lecture. So firstly, okay, so why packet switching is not transparent? As I mentioned right now also, no, context switching is transparent as we know what exactly is the I mentioned that where each packet follows a different path. Transparent as in we do not know exact path at which the packet switching is done. So we do not know whether all the packets will be reaching correctly or not correctly, and we do not know which packet gets lost, and we cannot track that package as well. But in case of circuit switching, there is a continuous one single path, and there is a establishment of that path. So we are transparent that which packet is that all the packets are reaching or none of the packets are reaching. So it's not the case that some or parts of the packet will get lost. Okay, so now we will be discussing these questions. So a web browser is the HTTP client or HTTP server, as the answer is already is shown here. So we have seen that the web browser is the client which requests to the web server, right? So web browser is the HTTP client only. And then there is another question: which of the following tags, following are the correct HTML tags? You understand the HTML tags. So we have studied there are different HTML tags. So the answer is A and C. That is HR, that is the header tag, and then there is A and A, which is the I told you the anchor tag. But the AR tag, there is no AR tag, and then the image tag, which is not having any closing tag. So this is not correct. So which of the following statements are true with respect to the MIME? It is embedded between email body and header. It transforms non-ASCII data to network virtual terminal ASCII data. We have studied MIME just now, and it both the statements are correct because it is embedded between email body and header. This is a particular extension, and it is able to transform non-ASCII data to the network virtual terminal ASCII data. Any doubts in this? Both A and B are correct. So question 4, that INT domain name refers to which types of class? INT. That is the international organization. You all are correct about it. It is not the informational sites. So which of the following statements is or are true for file transfer protocol, that is FTP? So FTP uses port 21. Second, control connection is used by FTP to send messages to client in response to control commands. So both 1 and 2 are correct, as we have studied. FTP uses port 21, and that is for the control connection. And control connection is used to send messages to the client in response to the control commands. So it manages the control commands and responds to those control commands. But on the other hand, the DTP, that is that data transfer protocol, the data transfer process, that uses port 20, and it, but if we ask FTP uses port 21, then it is correct because FTP uses both 21 also and 20 also. So it is not a wrong statement. And the data transfer process is used to download or upload the files. Okay. So is PP pqr.government.ac.in a fully qualified domain name? The fully qualified domain name is the domain name which ends with the dot. So unless until the domain name is not ending with the dot, there is no dot after in. So it is not a fully qualified domain name. The answer is false. So what is the command used by DNS to translate a fully qualified domain name into its corresponding IP address? Yes, it is NS lookup. We have also seen the practical example for this. Which of the following are not application layer protocol? Now you are well aware of these. Yes, everyone is right. It is UDP, which is the transport layer protocol. What is the de facto directory path for storing MIB files in Linux operating system? The answer is A. This is the directory for storing the MIB files in Linux operating system, that is user share SNMP and MIBs. So MIBS is a protocol for SNMP only, extension of SNMP only, which used to store the file in the Linux operating system. So the directory it uses is this one, as mentioned in A. So which port is used by HTTPS servers? HTTPS. Clearly listen. For HTTP servers, what is the port used? You can tell me that also. Yeah, for HTTP it's 80, but for HTTPS it's 443. So keep these things in mind. HTTP is different and HTTPS is different server. So for HTTP it's port 80 and for HTTPS it's port 443. So here we have done our assignments. So we have a few minutes left. So if anyone is having any query, you can ask in the meantime. Yeah, so the PDF I'll be sharing with you right now. Yes, so I think every one of you has enrolled in the this uh, NPTEL course, right? So you will be able to get the you will be able to get the video link in that NPTEL course. Also, the after this session ends, the video will get saved in this chat session of the session. This WhatsApp group is the one that was created last time, right? Okay, so if anyone wants to join, they can join. I will be sharing this PDF here as well. Akshit, you have any doubt?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, what's the doubt?
Ma'am, in the question two, why the remaining part is not correct?
Question two of the assignment.
Yeah, ma'am.
Which was the question? Where,
Ma'am, that
like, which of
HTML.
Okay, so see the AR, as I mentioned, for the image there is no closing tag. So there is a starting tag, but there is no closing tag. So the for image, I'll share the screen. Even you can see here in the PDFs as well. This is how the image tag is written. The image source with description, and here it ends. So there is no explicit ending tag for image tag. However, in the question they asked, there was an explicit ending tag for image tag. So this is incorrect. And there is no AR tag with the closing tag in HTML tags. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
And yeah, so I have shared the PDF in this Teams chat only. So anyone who wants to access to the PDF can see it. If anyone is having any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, you can leave the session. You've asked what is zone in IP address. So an IP address zone is there is a zone in the IP group of which is a group of host IP addresses and the IP address subnet. All the arrays related to that IP address subnet. So it enables the admin to identify the network to which network or to which network perimeters around a set of IP address. So the broader domain is known as the zone. So you joined late, but that is okay. I shared the PDFs and the recordings will be available to you as well. So you can see from the recording. And if you have any queries, you can put the queries in the next lecture. So you are asking about the inverse and generic and country domain. So the generic domain are the top level domains which are with 3 or more than 3 characters. The country domain is the domain with the specific country names which are only 2 characters long. And there is the inverse domain which maps that particular domain name with the IP address also in the inverse manner. So when we have the certain domains with the IP address linked to it, so it starts from top to bottom, fetching from that domain name to the IP address. There are 3 types of domains. So this recording, if you are enrolled in the NPTEL, so they will be sharing the link of the recording. If you are not enrolled in NPTEL, till but this is the course for NPTEL, so you have to get it from them only. However, I will say that this after the over of this session, the recording will be available in this chat of this meeting discussion. You can fetch from there in MS Teams as well. What kind of programming? What do you mean by programming too? In networks, you mean programming? Socket programming. That this course doesn't cover the socket programming things. So that this course mainly covers the theoretical part of computer networks and internet protocols. This will not cover the socket programming, the practical implementations. What do you mean by any configurations? Oh, on Linux, that is not like the practical implementation as I'm mentioning. We can give you a small demo sometime, but this course broadly covers the theoretical part of the course. We can place a session in between the live session at some day in which we can show the demo of how the socket programming and the statements work on Linux. But that is not a part of this course, but I'll check if that can be doable in the live session. Any other doubts? Okay, so we can end the session. Any